Good morning.
Good morning, Mark Demos.
How are you today?
I'm doing great and it's getting better each and every single day. How you doing?
Good man. I'm just trying to keep my dog away. Yeah, but all good.
All
How
righty.
are you today?
The weather's beautiful out here in Philadelphia.
Good.
And where you are, where you calling in from?
I'm in Dallas, and it's going to be hot here today.
Oh, yeah.
Yep,
Dallas, it gets very, very hot down there.
it does. Well, it's lovely to meet you. Thank you.
Oh, I appreciate you and everything that you're doing.
Thank you.
And I told a great friend of mine about you, and his name is Goran Bazar, and he's an international business expert.
Yeah.
He specializes in private equity and turning underperforming real estate into prosperity centers.
Wonderful.
So when he went to your website, he was amazed and mesmerized by what you're doing in the wealth space and business acquisitions. So I told him that I was going to do an interview with you today, and he wanted to see if he can do a 30-minute conference call with you to see how y'all can create value for one another.
Sure. Well, I'd love to do that.
All righty. So I'll let him know. He's in California, so he's like 3 hours behind me. So I'll let him know. And are you familiar with GoToWebinar?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what I'll do is let him know, and then we'll set some dates and times up so we can have a chat and see how we can be value creators towards one another.
Sure. That'd be great. Thank you.
All righty. Are you ready?
I'm ready to go. I rescued a pit bull a couple of years back, and he just he never leaves me alone.
He keeps you busy, huh?
He does.
Oh wow.
Anyhow, all right, we're good.
All righty. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Arthur Robinson Jr. I'm the creator and host of the Powerful Interviews podcast. And today I have a special interview for each and every one of you. Today I have a wonderful person on the show, and he's a great friend of mine. His name is Mark Demas. And for those that don't know Mark, let me explain to each and every one of you about this incredible, phenomenal man. Mark Demas is the best-selling author of his phenomenal book, which is called The DNA Code. He's also the creator and founder of his phenomenal company, which is called Talent DNA. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome the one, the only, the powerful Mark Demas to the show.
Well, thank you, Arthur. I really appreciate it. I think it's the one and only Arthur Robinson. It's, Arthur Robinson Jr. Really appreciate being here today. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate you. I'd like to thank you once again for taking time out of your busy schedule to educate me and the audience worldwide about your phenomenal book, The DNA Code, and about your phenomenal brand, Talent DNA. I gladly appreciate it.
Thank you. We're looking forward to be able to share today as well. Thanks so much.
To everyone that's listening, I highly recommend go and get your pen and your pad right now. My great friend Mark Demas is going to break down layman's terms about his phenomenal book, The DNA Code, and we're going to talk about what wealthy families actually go through. Is that correct, Mark?
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a lot of what we do. We help them figure out, legacy. We help them figure out just how to maintain integrity in their own homes when they have a lot of money. Character is so important, that, and the ability to find purpose in the midst of all that you have and all that surrounds you.
What I'd like to know, Mark, and can you break down to the audience in layman's terms, who is the phenomenal Mark Demas? How long have you been in your powerful industry, and what is your expertise?
That's three great questions. I'm a husband, I'm a father, I'm a grandfather. Those things are the most important things to me. They are the things that define life and bring stability to life. Beyond that, I have given the last, really 40 years of my life to understanding talent, identifying talent, being able to then develop it, because you really can't accurately and powerfully develop what you don't know. It becomes like shooting a shotgun out there and hoping to hit something. So for me, the most important part of my life has always been, how do you identify something that is exceptional in someone or many things that are exceptional, how do you bring them together and how do you help them to create a life out of that? Because it's, in the way that I do things, my understanding is that we each have unique design, that there's something intricately architected into each one of us, and we need to know what that architecture is. If we don't, we live without purpose, we live without passion, we live somewhat aimlessly, and we're always looking for something to make us happy or something to drive positive emotion in our lives. So that's what I do, and I've attempted to apply it in a lot of different ways. From corporate life to education to nonprofits. We worked with AIDS orphans. We worked with out of school suspension. And it's all the same thing. People need to know who they are, and they need to be able to accurately identify what has been given to them to impact this world with.
Now, you said people have to identify their purpose. So without purpose, you have no focus?
Yes, I don't think people really discover purpose without figuring out who they are. I have a formula that I use that really underscores everything we do. And the first part of that is design determines purpose. So if you were to think about two different cars, you think about a Ferrari and then you think about a pickup truck. They both cars. They both have wheels, they have a steering wheel, they have brakes, they have all the same basic components, but they have different engines. One is high performance, it's going to drive you fast. The other is going to be something that you can load, half a ton or a ton in the back and, move things from one place to another. One's built for two people, the other you can probably get 4 or 5 in, or a lot of people in the back, but they're very different in terms of purpose. Same initial architecture, but very different in terms of purpose. So if you want to figure out purpose, don't seek it. Figure out who you want to be able to find the innate excellence that God has given you that you are to give to this world. That gives you purpose.
Now, you deal with wealthy families that their net worths are, 50 million, 100 million, 200 million and above. So you deal with a lot of multi-millionaires, deca and hecto-millionaires. From your own experience, what are these wealthy families like in regards to how they like to learn specialized knowledge?
They're all different. Some of them are engineers that have built tech companies. Some of them are people who've inherited wealth. Some of them have spent 30 or 40 years building companies. But they all have, I think, an innate drive to learn more. They are readers. For a lot of them, they are people who read people really, really well. There are some people just have that innate capacity. They understand emotion. They understand how to connect with other people, the right people. So, it's somewhat, not defined in a very particular way, but, people who are going to make a lot and then keep a lot really have to learn a lot.
Wow. Now, what are the mistakes that you're seeing that wealthy families are making when it comes to spending time with their children? And do you see that their children are engaging?
One of the biggest issues is, and the really tragic situation that happened yesterday, was that one of the Kennedy grandchildren, Robert Kennedy's granddaughter, killed herself up in Kennebunkport, Hyannisport up in New England. 22 years old, had been depressed, didn't know where she was going in life, and ended up taking an overdose and dying. And I think that is something we don't just find wealthy families, we find it really across the board. But I think wealthy families have a greater difficulty in trying to help their kids understand that they not only have to discover talent, they've not only got to be able to discover their own pathway in life, these children, you've got to couple that with character. When you think that money can override character, or you think that somehow because your name is something, you don't have to treat people decently, you don't have to behave in a decent, moral, ethical way, what happens is you always lose. You might be able to hire attorneys, and you might be able to get off things, but ultimately, just like young Robert F. Kennedy's granddaughter who died yesterday, at 22, with all of her life in front of her, to go and kill herself. She had the name, she had the wealth, she had everything. I don't know the particular situation. You never want to say anything when someone has committed suicide, but how desperately sad to have all of that. But when you realize your name is just a name, you're no different from anybody else on this planet in regard to what you've been given and what's required with what you've been given, and that is to give it, to impact, touch, and serve the lives of other people. So you can't substitute money, you can't substitute a name, you can't substitute some sort of past legacy and think it's going to build the future in terms of creating happiness for your children or anyone else. It's up to them to know. So for me, it's really helping these parents understand your child's got to build their own lives. They've got to separate themselves from everything that you've got. And you as a parent have got to give them opportunity. You as a parent have got to let them struggle. You as a parent have got to let them help them discover their innate talents and what they've got to give to this world.
Wow. Now, you mentioned that powerful word, money. Now, let's have a conversation about money. Now, I know money is not the value. Money is just a facilitator to do transactions. Can you explain to the audience, how would you define money?
Money has to be guided by ethics and character. Money is the means to. It's the means to many things. It's the means and opportunity to buy, to travel, to do the things that you want to in life. But when you use that money in ways that really don't serve the growth and development of yourself and your own family, when you use that money to find happiness or buy happiness in external things, it will never gift you what you hope. When you use it to grow and develop yourself and grow and develop your family in an ethical and a moral and a good way, it's a great thing. But you don't need money to do that. Money, what I found, again, is that so many wealthy people, we look at them and we want to be just like them because we think that money brings to them so much that we have to struggle and experience. It's not true. Many of the wealthy people I know are desperately, desperately unhappy, and they found that money has not been able to buy what so many of us think it's going to buy. So my honest belief is that it's good, it's right. Money is what runs this world. It's the opportunity. It opens doors to many things, and it grows choice. It gives us a choice for many things. But how are you going to use it? How are you going to use it in a responsible way to serve other people?
So would you say that money is a byproduct of the value that you uncover?
It is. It is. And it's about talent. How do I use my talent in an honest, ethical way? The more I discover of my talent, it doesn't mean I'm going to make millions and billions of dollars, but I think there's a moral capital, there's a spiritual capital, there's a spiritual value to, again, knowing how to use money in the right way.
Wow. Now, you have a phenomenal brand called Talent DNA. Now, can you explain to the audience in layman's terms, with the brand that you developed over the years, what does Talent DNA stand for? And for the instructors that actually teach the curriculum, I know curriculum means control. How did you develop that curriculum for wealthy families to understand?
Well, we have a brand, part of that brand is a company called the Legacy Forum. It's got its own separate site. We have others for college, 321go.college, and 2 or 3 others. MyLifescene.com is one of them. And in terms of the wealthy families, it really is the same process as working with the kids who, are orphans of HIV. It doesn't matter who you are, you individually as a person have to discover. So wealthy people have a lot more opportunity. But again, if that opportunity is not used in a controlled manner, that is pushing children to discover, giving them the opportunity, giving them the formulas that we use to help people discover. And I've developed a formula through the years, and I call it the SPIES formula, SPIES, just like I spy with my little eye, but it's SPIES. And so the first part of that is probably the most essential part of all of it. And that is, I've got to know who I am spiritually, or if you don't like the word spiritually, what matters to me, what drives me, what directs me in life, what matters to me. For some people, who are going to be a teacher. I have a son who's a teacher. He teaches 4th and 5th grade. He likes to take those minds. He's a big, strong man. He's 6'2", the only man in his school. But you think he's a teacher. Why shouldn't he be in a high school and helping a lot of other big young athletes and big young guys? He's drawn to that age group. He knows what his mission is. He wants to help young kids at that age learn information. So he's become not only a teacher, but the school information officer. So he teaches in the library, teaches skills like that. So it really is finding what matters to me in life. What is my, those things that internally drive me? That's the S for spiritual. For some people, it's also trying to determine and make sure in their own minds and make clear, where does my talent come from? That is very, very important. For me, it's a belief that God's given me my talent, that it's a God-given gift, God-given talents. For other people, they believe it's by chance. They have what they have because they were given it at birth. That's it. But for me, it doesn't matter where you come from. For me, I know what I believe. But you need to know, again, and you need to be able to attribute in terms of that S, where does my talent come from? Because it then determines how I'm going to be responsible in using that talent. The second is, who am I physically? Who I am physically may sound, well, how does that go to talent? Does that mean, athletic talent? It can. But it can also mean the ability to act, the ability to be a doctor. Being a doctor is all about physical talent. It's about sensory capacity. You go to the doctor, he looks down your throat, he looks in your ears, he looks at your eyes, he listens to your heart. That's all using his senses or her senses to be able to diagnose what's wrong with you. There are many, an artist, a musician, that's all physical capacity. So you've got to know what you've been given in terms of what's exceptional, that is above average, that you can repeat. And that's my definition of talent. It's something you can do that when you compare yourself to others, you're better than, and you can repeat it over and over again. So if I'm at 51% better than average, that's talent. But if I'm at 80%, that's great talent. Then I is intellectual, and intellectual is knowing what sort of mind do I have? What sort of memory do I have? What are the things that make me come alive intellectually? Do I love sciences? Do I love the arts? Do I love history? What are the things intellectually that really make sense to me, that when I go to school, I'm in college, I love going to that class. I look forward to it. Time flies when I'm in that class. I'm really good at it. So we try and help these kids understand your dad may be an attorney, or your dad and mom may be doctors, or they may be whatever, and they want you to be it. Well, if that's not who you are intellectually, that's a real problem. But many parents, many wealthy parents want their kids to go to Ivy League schools, and they want them to go into a profession. They want them to be a scientist, a doctor, a lawyer. They want them to be a computer scientist. They want them to all get an MBA and make a lot of money, go manage a fund or something like that. But if that's not who you are and you're pushed to do that every day, what happens is it doesn't produce in you the emotion, the positive connection to life, the sense that this is what I'm made to do. And you start looking other places to make yourself happy. And then we look at the E, which inspires. So it's spiritual, physical, intellectual, emotional. Who am I emotionally? How emotionally intelligent am I? How do I read the emotions of other people? How do I control my emotions when I'm disappointed? It's a great thing for entrepreneurs. So many entrepreneurs and leaders of great corporations probably score higher on emotional intelligence than they do intellectual intelligence. That's not all of them, but the majority are. They know people. They know how to manage and direct people. It's how you handle crisis. It's, long-term, it's grit. It's how do I handle the tough stuff in life emotionally? Do I fly off the handle? Do I get drunk and do stupid things? Do I, want to feel bigger and better about myself, so I go harass some woman or some man at work? So it's about our emotions. Who am I emotionally, and then who am I lastly socially? Where do I stand out in a group? Some people like small groups. Some people like big groups. People like Bill Gates never like speaking. They hate speaking. They hate doing public speaking. But they're great in a group. They're great when they got a bunch of other bright minds around them directing them. So it's about small groups where you can come alive, direct process, direct innovation. My oldest son's like that. He's got 5 friends that he's had for 20 years. My other son, Adam, who runs and starts restaurants, has got thousands of friends. I don't want Adam to become Andre, and I don't want Andre to become Adam. I want people to know where they fit socially and where they can demonstrate their exceptionality, whether it's in a big group or a small group, whether it's one-on-one or whether it's in front of 5,000 people. So that's what we do. We take people through and we help them understand all these different areas of life to say, who are you? Tell us where you're exceptional. Let's go through your history. Let's ask people, your friends, your family, your parents. Let's ask your managers, experts in your life. Let's see whether you've repeated things. So sorry, it's a long answer, but it really encapsulates what we do. It's all about knowing what your talent is.
Mm-hmm. You said knowing what your talent is. Now, I love surrounding myself around brainstorming groups, and I know that entrepreneurs and business owners, some excel in small groups, some excel in big groups, especially, small or big focus groups. Mm-hmm. How do you feel about brainstorming? And do you feel as though that entrepreneurs and business owners should brainstorm on a consistent, regular basis?
Sure. If you want more information, if you want your ideas put to the test, mm-hmm. I think some entrepreneurs don't want to be challenged. They don't want their ideas. They want to get them out there. They want to try them out in the market. Mm-hmm. I think it's always important to try them out with people, to discuss them, to get input from other people. Mm-hmm. The reason I wrote my book initially was I'd been working on this model for a number of years. Mm-hmm. It had been successful and, done a lot of work at Microsoft, done a lot of work in schools, a lot of startups, a lot of VC companies. Mm-hmm. But I really wanted to put it out there in front of the brightest minds that I knew. Mm-hmm. And so I wrote it and I sent it out just to have it peer or, reviewed by the experts and by people who could give me input. And that was the original purpose of me writing it. And it ended up after that being able to take it to add a lot of stories about people that fit the different concepts I was trying to teach and, make it a lot more real. But I got tremendous feedback from the greatest minds that I knew and respected. I sent it to them, some just on a chance that they'd read it. Some did, some didn't. Mm-hmm. But get involved in a brainstorming group, get involved in a mastermind group, get involved when, you can discuss ideas. And I'll also say some entrepreneurs are scared to share ideas. They think people are going to steal them. Right. The reality in life is there's nothing new under the planet. There are new applications of knowledge. Mm-hmm. But find people you trust them. Find people that you can trust, that you can share ideas with, but make sure they know more than you do about the subject very often, or parts of the subject that you can't be an expert at everything.
Mm. Now, you develop a powerful brand, Talent DNA, and basically it's being known all over the world on a national as well as on an international scale. How do you feel about market growth versus market innovation?
For me, it all goes back to, again, knowing who you are. In terms of markets, people who we work with a local company in Dallas here. They're an international brand now. I got an email this morning from someone who had just been appointed the new international director of the brand.
Mm-hmm.
But it had been started, and for the first 5 years did relatively well. But the CEO is a very creative, very innovative woman. And what she decided to do is to create a very funny video around the concept. And the company's called Poopery, and a lot of people have seen actually seen the video. It's this British woman, and she's going into the bathroom, and it's about, it's just about life and smell and everything else.
Mm-hmm.
But it went on, and within a few weeks, transformed that company because of an innovation and because of a thought. I can take this, make it funny, get it out there.
Mm-hmm.
But that's who that brand is. There are some brands that just are not innovative in and of themselves, but they are slow, they are measured, they know their market, they know how to take their product, and they know how to find a way to develop those channels and to develop the people, who need it. For most people thinking about, smell in the bathroom with a company like Poopery, that it's a hard thing to talk about, but they, you get 20, 30 million hits on a video,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden, Walmart wants it and Walgreens want it, and a lot of companies, not just these kind of kitschy, novelty stores, all of a sudden, that one choice to innovate and do something that nobody else really believed she should do, but
Mm-hmm.
she went with it as a leader and the founder of the company, and it transformed everything.
Mm. Now you mentioned video. Now let's have a conversation about video. Now I know a couple of years ago, Google bought YouTube for $1.6 billion. So video is hot right now. Can you explain to the audience the power of using video? And should entrepreneurs and business owners use video to expand their brand?
I think they should. I think you've also got to determine the market. You've also got to determine what sort of videos you want to put out there.
Mm-hmm.
You using it to develop your brand. This is something that you've determined is part of where you want to go, what you want to do. A lot of people aren't comfortable on video. They just are not. A lot of people are not good on video. So if you're not and you want to get into video, make sure you've got somebody, who can be the spokesman, who can develop the videos for you.
Mm-hmm.
I've always loved doing video. When I did the My Life Scene platform, the software that, helps people discover and go through that SPIES analogy and teaches them the whole process.
Mm-hmm.
I did 64 videos in 2 days. They were short videos, 3 to 5 minutes each.
Mm-hmm.
But it was originally planned that I do them over a period of probably about 4 to 5 days. I really did them in a day and a half.
Mm-hmm.
But I love doing video. I love doing interviews and connecting with people. So the other thing in regards to that is we are starting to develop videos for a platform or a new product we have called 321go.college.
Mm-hmm.
And in developing videos for that, mental health and dealing with mental health with college students,
Mm-hmm.
you've got to make sure that they're short, that they are singular focus. It's just about one concept, that they're no more than about a minute, minute and a half at the longest. You can give them 10 short videos on stress or depression.
Mm-hmm.
Don't give them something that's 30 minutes long.
Mm-hmm.
Entrepreneurs who want to learn, which is what I understand about your channel. These are people who really want to learn and discover and find new ideas from other people. Not everybody can do what you can do. I think it's a talent that you have. It's a drive that you have. I think you are innately a learner.
Mm-hmm.
You love learning, and you want to take that learning and you want to give it to other people, and you want to find people that you can bring in and disseminate more knowledge to help them make their lives bigger and better. But that's a unique talent you have.
Mm-hmm. Well, I always say that ideas is the real capital, real wealth. So once you create an idea, you have to plant the seed and let the seed water, and then let the seed, harvest. Now, I have entrepreneurs in my network where, they always basically want to focus on talent. They want to focus on talent, and they want to basically excel that talent to the next level. Can you explain to the audience in your own influential way, what is the best advice that you have ever received?
best advice I've ever received. Um, Best statement I've ever had given to me was by the person who taught me forensics. And she basically said, evidence doesn't lie. Evidence never lies. So the question is, how do you discover evidence? How do you know that you know what you know? So in terms of personal, in terms of owning your own talent, I took that and I applied it to my own life and to what I was doing.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to know what you know about yourself, and you've got to be able to articulate that clearly. The greater clarity you have in terms of your own talent, the greater capacity and ability you have to describe it to other people. You know, one of the things I did many years ago is take a profile called this Gallup Strength Finder.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd really encourage any entrepreneur, if you have not taken the Gallup Strength Finder or read the Strength Finder material,
Mm-hmm.
to me, it's the best profile out there in terms of really helping understand talent. But what it did for me, it didn't give me anything new based on what I knew about myself, but it gave me words to describe.
Mm-hmm.
That when people said, so tell me more about you, I was able to use some of the concepts that I got from the profiles of the Gallup Strength Finder. Things like, I'm futuristic. I've always been that. I've been able to look down the road and say, this is what's going to develop.
Right.
If you bring these two things together, you will be able to do something that individually you can't do by yourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was one. And the futuristic, I am strategic. I'm an activator. I start things. But what I also know is when I try and run things,
Mm-hmm.
I get bored. I get dissatisfied with life. And I know one of the things that in terms of my life, that I'm not here to run the things that I create. So I create a lot of programs and a lot of things through the years that I'm only going back to now. I'm almost 60 in about 8 days' time, but I'm taking them, putting walls around them, and developing them into companies. I've given myself 1,000 days to be able to take 3 of these concepts, one in corporate, one in education, and one the Legacy Forum and working with high net worth families,
Mm-hmm.
and really developing those brands substantially. And that within 3 years, I only want to become a consultant to those companies. Obviously, have stock of them, but be able to really be innovative in terms of influence and creating new products, because that's where I want my life to go.
Mm-hmm. Mm. Wow.
Do the Gallup Strength Finder if you haven't done it. 20 million people have done it. To me, it's the best profile for any business person to take.
Mm-hmm.
People remember it. You know, you can do the DISC, you can do the Myers-Briggs, you can do 100 different profiles.
Mm-hmm.
I've used all of those in my company and personally, but the one that really stands out to me is the Gallup Strength Finder. Really important one for any entrepreneur to take.
Wow. Now, Warren Buffett and Charlie Munger, they basically are value investors.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a lot of value investors in your network?
I do. You know, I had a young friend I talked to the other day. He's part of the Dallas Social Ventures.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, it is about, you know, when you think about investing in value, I think you've first got to understand your own values. There are many people who talk about value investment,
Mm-hmm.
but normally they're simply following what someone like Buffett does. You know, it's simply trying to be what they are and follow their lead. But I think individually, you've got to know what matters to you. You have got to define your own values very clearly. If you want to make value investments, or if you want to be involved in some social venture group, or you want to look for products that you want to put your money into, they've got to synchronize with what matters to you. What matters to people like Warren Buffett is what matters to Warren Buffett. I worked for a family that is called, you know, they own a mutual fund called Franklin Templeton. And the man who started, worth about $6 billion now, but he never wanted to put his name on the company. He put the name of Benjamin Franklin on the company, as the company name, because as a mutual fund, he wanted to convey the belief that just as Benjamin Franklin was very controlled in his view of money, it was about security, it was about wise investment. You know, he coined the phrase, a penny saved is a penny earned, you know, things like that, but was very frugal and, you know, just really managed things well. So he wanted to say, you know, put that name in his company. The other person that's part of Franklin Templeton was one of the greatest minds, economic, you know, geniuses of the last 100 years, Sir John Templeton, a guy from Tennessee, basically a hick who studied at Oxford, but was the person responsible for bringing Europe back after the Second World War. He was knighted eventually, but just had an amazing economic brand, and they combined to build Franklin Templeton as a mutual fund.
Wow. Mark, I wrote down some powerful words, 10 being the highest and 1 being the lowest, so you can rate them in your own powerful way. Are you ready?
Sure.
Accountability.
8. Some people are highly accountable to themselves. Other people need accountability from outside.
Perseverance.
10.
Family.
10.
Love.
10.
Marriage.
10.
Integrity.
10. Just on the marriage thing, I've been married a year. On the 29th of July, so just a few days ago.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you.
Building great relationships.
It's a 10.
Leverage.
It's hard for me to simply give a simple rating to a lot of these things, but, you know, obviously leverage, you know, is vital in building anything. Yeah, it's a basic engineering tool. So it's a 10 too. I mean, you need leverage in every part of life.
Health.
I'm almost 60, as I said. 10. I lost 25 pounds in the last 3 months.
Wealth.
It's got to be broadly defined, but spiritual wealth combined with economic wealth, social wealth, I think you've got to broaden the definition. If you combine all of them, obviously a 10.
Leadership.
10.
Abundance. Abundance.
Again, broadly defined at 10 with all those different parts that I spoke about.
Financial literacy.
Really, really important. And let me just give a shout out to a young guy that I've worked with in the Richardson School District here in Dallas. His name is Derek Wesley. And you'll be hearing a lot more about him, but he's started a company dealing, you know, he works with a lot of minority kids in the school district, but now he's developed an app that will be coming out in October. He won the Ameritrade Innovation Award just recently, got 50 grand from that. But if there are people who are really interested in financial literacy, look for the person, Derek Wesley, and I can send you his information and his contact. You know, it's vitally important. So Derek Wesley, it's really, really important. If you don't have it, have somebody who does have it. My wife is far more financially literate than I am.
Value.
Again, broadly defined. It's got to bring real change to life. I mean, drug dealers create value for people who are miserable. So it's obviously a 10.
Purpose.
Absolute 10.
Focus.
Forgive me for kind of doing this. You know, sometimes it's with each of us, you know, focus. There are times in life where we're a lot more focused than others, and it doesn't mean we can't relax. It doesn't mean we shouldn't be able to, you know, just lie back. I was down the Keys recently, just lying on my back in the water. You know, it's not about focus on anything. I think you've got to learn to relax. But when you're focused, you need to know what you're focusing on, and you need to know what the goal of that focus is as well. Where am I taking what I'm putting my mind and my life into?
Energy.
in terms of importance, again, you've got to learn how to relax, but obviously it's very important. But I'll tell you, the things that energize us in life almost always go back to one of two things. It's talent that energizes, giving my talent where it matters, but also giving, knowing what matters to me. I have no energy in giving the best of who I am to people that don't want it or to places that don't value it.
Mm-hmm.
So, everything is qualified. It's hard for me ever to answer just in one short answer. Forgive me.
Entitlement.
Major problem.
Mm.
Major problem. See it in so many of the young people today, so many of the university students. We work with a lot of university students, started a new company called 321 Go recently.
Mm-hmm.
And one of our board members is Dr. Monique Rainier, who has been a dean at 3 Ivy League universities. At Harvard, she was dean at Columbia and Princeton. And the sense of entitlement that this world owes me or somebody else owes me. Entitlement is sick, it's destructive. I'm entitled to know my talent so I can give my talent to other people. That's the bottom line for me. That's what I'm entitled to do in this world. Know who I am and give it to make the lives of others bigger and better.
Benefactors.
Good, bad, and some really ugly. But there are some great people who give to our lives, who leave things to us that we have not earned. We need to value those things.
Mm-hmm.
Some who give to people who have not defined their lives and don't know what matters,
Mm-hmm.
turns to bad.
Top line revenue.
Sorry?
Top line revenue.
Well, again, it also determines, how, how and why and, it's made. So every answer is qualified. Again, I'm sorry.
Reading.
Vitally important. I read a lot, but most people don't see a book in my hand.
Mm-hmm.
I read pieces of information. I'm very good at conceptualizing, getting a part of something. And I'd also say it's not just reading, it's watching videos like you're producing. That's as important. In terms of learning styles, we're all different. Some of us take in information in small bits.
Mm-hmm.
Some of us can get a book and read it all the way through, at one sitting. And others of us have to watch things. We are, we're visual learners, and some of us are auditory learners. We'll listen to a book on tape, and some of us actually read. So in terms of taking in information, know what you really do with the greatest of ease to take in that information.
All right, that was good.
Thank
that
you.
was real good, Mark.
Good question.
Can you explain to the audience exactly where they can find you?
Sure. It depends where you are in life. We have a company called Talent DNA, which is talentdna.co, not .com, talentdna.co. We have a self-discovery program, which is mylifescene.com. So mylifescene.com. And that's it takes you through. It's a process that takes anywhere from 8 to 14 weeks, developed originally for college students, but it's the deepest dive in terms of discovering talent and getting clear on who you are and what you've got to give to this world. It includes things like the Strength Finder, the Values in Action, and other profiles from positive psychology like grit. Some of you may have read the book called Grit. And so that's all included in that. And then we have 321go.college. So if you're a college student or looking to go back to college, maybe you dropped out, maybe you've got a child who's going to college, maybe you are one of these wealthy families and you've already determined that your kid's going to go to Harvard or Princeton or Yale. Think through your choice before they go, because simply going and being part of a university that has a name because you have a name, rather than having a child know who they are and know what they want to do in life and what direction they want to go in.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's really important. Things like gap years we deal with as well. Helping, you know, one of the greatest things that a lot of young people can do is take a gap year. Don't go straight from high school into college.
Mm-hmm.
Grow up a little bit. Learn to live by yourself. Learn to negotiate this world and know how to make decisions by yourself. That is as important than 5 years of college for many people.
Mm.
And then lastly, that thelegacyforum.com. And that is the site primarily for high net worth families.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they're all separate sites.
Mm-hmm.
But what we do is we come in-house. We don't recommend that parents send their children away.
Mm-hmm.
Most of our clients, the children have already been to a drug rehab once or twice or 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
They've been to schools, boarding schools, military schools. They've been to wilderness programs. And most of them, a lot of them are decent and good, but they don't seem to work long term. So we come in and we do everything in home. We bring a psychiatrist in home. We'll bring psychologists and life coaches, and I oversee the program with these families. But we deal with the family as a whole, not just the child who's having an issue.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also developed the Legacy Forum into really dealing with the family as a whole.
Mm-hmm.
We're currently working with a family, man and his wife, C-level in a major oil and gas company, and really helping them look at their future. They're about 50 and say, what is my life? Where am I going to take my life the next 10 years? What really matters to me? We can retire 5 times over, but what are we going to do? Do we continue working, or do I continue working?
Mm-hmm.
What are we going to do with our lives? So that's where you can find us.
So you deal with a lot of families that come from all walks of life.
We do. I mean, I ran a program called, I'm trying to remember what it was, the Regeneration Project in Seattle. That was with AIDS orphans, kids who 1 or 2 parents had died because of HIV. You know, it's hard to say we've ever turned away anyone. You know, we run an out of school suspension program for 8 years in Dallas here. Working with kids who have been removed from their campuses to have to deal with major issues of drugs, of violence, of substance abuse, various other things. But it's all the same thing. You're not trying to cure someone, you're trying to help them discover who they are. Because that truly is the greatest formula in life, to know what has been given to me that is exceptional, that guides my life to give to people who need what I've got. It's all about knowing what I've got to give to other people, whether it's building a company, to give my talent, to run it, to innovate it, to market it, to do whatever. But it's knowing that I have talent to be exceptional. How am I going to give them this life? And that's where purpose comes into it. How am I going to give them life?
Now, I know we have some parents all over the world where, you know, they want their kids to go to Harvard. And once they graduate Harvard, they basically are, you know, have that corporate job making 6 or 7 figures, or they basically just running a business straight out of the gate once they graduate Harvard. From your own experience with the kids that graduated from Harvard, what kind of paradigm shifts have they created for themselves but when they graduate and start to run their business?
I'll tell you this. Harvard has been described as a cesspool of anxiety. That to get through your 4 years there, very few people drop out of Harvard. If you have a 1% dropout rate, that's pretty high. Most universities have at least a 30 to 40% dropout rate in the first year. They will have
30 to 40%?
First year.
Wow.
1.
Wow.
Harvard has about a 1%. And really the way you get out, you know, you leave Harvard is because you have a mental breakdown, a psychological breakdown. You go to rehab or you kill yourself. I mean, that's basically how you get out of it. Once you're in, you're in. Try and manage your mental health. What it creates is a sense, there are a lot of great people who've been to Harvard. There are a lot of great people who've been to Harvard. But for a lot of people, it does create kind of an elitist mentality, a belief that I'm better than because, well, my parents got me in. We've seen the scandal just recently when parents have paid up to $500,000 to get their kids into good schools. I mean, it's happened all around this country, to Stanford, to USC, to Yale, to various other places. How sad when a parent almost thinks, well, my kid's not good enough. I've got to pay $100,000, $500,000 to get them into that school that they can become someone. So I think though Harvard really develops really top class thinkers and academics and attorneys and various other things, it's the value ultimately in terms of your own purpose that matters more. This is a big world, and in this big world we find people who've gone to Harvard, we found people who dropped out of Harvard who've done great things, who didn't last a semester, like Bill Gates. And I'll also say college is not for everyone. There are a lot of amazing people who never went to college, who built great companies.
That's true.
Sorry?
I said that's true.
It is true. But those are people who are very clear on their talent and what they've got to give. They know that they are someone and they have something to give to this world. They know it. They're clear on that.
Now, we covered a lot of ground during this fascinating interview. We talked about your brand, Talent DNA. We talked about, how wealthy families think and how they operate on a consistent, regular basis. From your own perspective, and can you explain to me and the audience in your own influential way, how do you feel about family offices?
It's just the way wealthy families do their business now. And if you want to do work with wealthy families, that's the gateway to them. They have people who manage their estates. That's a way to get in with them. Or they have family offices that manage everything, because everything comes within, or everything will then fall within, really a tax write-off. They will find a way to write off, or they'll find a way to create a charitable trust. Getty was the first one, I think one of the first ones who really understood the use of, or the concept, I think ultimately, of what a family office is. But, wealthy people don't want to have to manage what they have. I mean, it would take up all their time. So why not, so they hire someone or a group of people to manage their wealth for them, manage their investments, manage the family image, manage, where their kids go to school, find educational consultants, find mental health consultants. They use them to do that because they really manage their lives in a lot of ways, not just financially.
Now, you have small family offices and you also have big family offices, but not all family offices are created equal. Would you say that's accurate?
Well, true. I think it depends on how much money they're managing. It also depends, the family, what the family have in terms of expectation. Essentially, a family office is a personal assistant to help you do all the things that you really don't want to do, but also it's the expertise to hire and maintain legacy in terms of your the finances that you have. So you're hiring people who are pretty bright, who manage the day-to-day focus of, your investments, and as much as you want to allow them to the different parts of your life. But it's true. I mean, there are, again, big and small family offices. I've known some extremely wealthy people. Just think of one in particular. He really just has one person who, he could have 20 people. And I'm sure he has other people doing other parts of his life for him. But this one person who travels with him everywhere, goes on vacation with him whenever he needs something. I remember being on an island called the East Coast, and this guy had a car called a Panther. And a Panther is an amphibious, like Jeep. He could drive off his beach into the Sound where his house was. He got stuck on the beach. So he just calls his assistant, who he takes on vacation, is in a house just down the road. Take care of this for me. I've got to have this car shipped there. Make sure my plane is ready. I mean, it's almost like a glorified butler but it is a personal assistant who really takes care of all the things so he can enjoy his wealth, or his family can enjoy their wealth.
Mm.
And others really control, if you got 100 million and that the family office is managing, they're managing the day-to-day control of that money, the investments, looking for new investments, looking, doing due diligence on people who come to them wanting money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they do all of those things. And again, also managing the face of the family, the outward appearance, finding attorneys if a kid gets into trouble. I mean, they do all those things.
Mm. Now, let's talk about, the hiring process.
Mm-hmm.
And when you hire a man or a woman or a successful individual that you basically want to give a salary to or pay them hourly to basically be a part of your brand, do you take them through a process, or do you have someone like the COO of the company take them through a process to see if they're a good fit, where they can fit into your culture?
Absolutely. And I'll give you this illustration. Whenever you hire, it's a relationship. So when you want to get into a relationship, you've got to know who that other person is. We've all, how many times have we heard the horror stories about, you go and you join a dating app or a dating website, and someone says, I'm 35 and, I'm tall and slim and I'm an athlete. And the girl goes and meets the guy, and he's 55 in the shade, and he's about 80 pounds overweight and hasn't had a job in 3 years. It takes a bit of time. And I'll tell you this in terms of that relationship. As I said, I got married about a year ago. I was married for 10 years, went through a divorce, not of my own choice, went through many years of raising my own children as a single parent. I got custody of my children. But it was only after they were raised and they were out that I really begin to, define who I am and what I want in a relationship. So who you are as a company, you've got to know the DNA of that company. You've got to know and be able to clearly articulate what matters to you as a company. You've got to know your own cultural DNA. When you know what your cultural DNA is, you can find people who fit it. One of the big issues that corporate America is currently having with the millennial age group and those younger is that many of them want to work for a company that is socially conscious or has a mission. But the big issue corporate America is having is these potential employees can't define what matters to them. When asked, well, why do you want to work for us? What matters to you that also matters to us? They go blank. They have no clue about it. So we do have a process. We have a process to know how clearly the person can describe and be clear on their own talent. We want to ask them, so what are you going to bring uniquely that is you to our company that is going to make our company better because you're here? That's why you hire people. You hire them to make yourself better. You get into a relationship to be able to give the best of who you are, but you want the best of who the other person is. That's what makes a great relationship. And lastly, I'll give you one other quick illustration. I have a friend, he was a drummer in our church or music pastor. He needed a kidney transplant, helped him lose almost 200 pounds. Then we went through the matching, the donor matching. And what I found out in the process is that if you want to do a DNA match or you want to do a kidney transplant, you have got to find a donor who matches at least 5 to 6 distinct DNA markers. But you've first got to profile, my friend and know what his DNA is. And then you've got to go out to look for somebody who matches at least 5 to 6 of those distinct DNA alleles that my friend had. If you don't, they don't incorporate. If you have 5 out of 6, you've got to be giving constant steroids and prednisone and drugs, and it doesn't create a good feeling for anyone. Anyone who's on steroids has a problem, long term. They don't think clearly, they don't do things well, and it takes a long time to integrate them. So be sure about those at least 5 or 6 things that are part of your corporate DNA before you even attempt to hire somebody to come in and integrate with you and give the best of who they are.
Now, I know the COO, the Chief Operating Officer, their role, whether it's a man or woman, they have to make the CEO of the company look good. Can you explain to the audience what's the COO role when they are in a company, and what's the CFO role in a company, the Chief Financial Officer?
Well, and again, it depends on what stage. Yeah, with the young entrepreneurs, sometimes they're doing everything. Once you get to a certain place where you can have both of those, yeah, COOs and operations. I mean, they are very often running the day-to-day operations, running of that company, doing all the things that have been decided on by the CEO. The CEO, says, this is what I want done. The operations person, they have a plan. They have a way of doing things. I think very often they really have to integrate very well with the CEO. I just wrote a proposal this morning for a company where she asked for a sample. So I had to redact a lot of information on my company we worked with, but the COO was really not a great fit and really needed to, they'd only been there for 6 months. They really needed to be moved out because they really were so different in terms of background, in terms of what they had done prior to coming into this company. It was just a totally, not only totally different culture, but even in terms of the product that they were selling. Though he was very good at operations, he was never going to thrive there. And because he constantly questioned what the CEO wanted to be done. But again, operations is just that. The CFO is somebody who takes financial policy, raises money sometimes, is someone who disperses, budgets. They determine financial policy. It's great to have, if you don't have a CFO, make sure you've got a good, even as a young company, a good bookkeeper, someone who can give you basic tax advice and other advice to be able to run your company. I know a lot of young entrepreneurs struggle with that and try and do everything. But if you can find somebody, even your bank can do that for you as a young company. Use your bank, go to your bank manager, get advice. They'll give you a lot of good free advice and can act almost as a temporary CFO when you're young as a company.
Wow. To everyone that's listening, I highly recommend get involved with the phenomenal Mark D. Most. You hear the passion that's coming through his voice on my show today. Mark, can you explain to me and the audience, what was the most important day of your life when you experienced financial freedom?
I've done that a few times in my life. I've been there a few times. And it's kind of hard. It's really hard to explain. I mean, it really is. It just, sometimes you are just doing life, and sometimes it just becomes a little easier. But I think even in terms of financial freedom, it's the freedom to know that I'm living and doing what I'm made to do. And that is the greater freedom. I think I know very few people, even who are extremely wealthy, and I think it almost, with a lot of people, increases the anxiety the more that they have. It really is from people who've come from nothing, who make a lot and do really well. So often they are driven by the anxiety, and the anxiety is, what if I lose it? But I think when people understand that the talent that they have has been given by a hand that's bigger than they are, that is greater than any external circumstance, that's what ultimately matters. That is the freedom to know that my talent has been given to me and there's always somebody who needs it. There's a freedom in that is greater than having immense wealth. Not that any of those things are wrong, and not that saying work hard, work diligently, be innovative, bring people into your world, be a great entrepreneur, make a lot of money. But, a lot of people think you make a lot of money and when you get there, you'll start giving. You'll start investing in, in foundations or giving to people in need. There are very few people that I know who, if they don't give now, they're not going to give down the road for any good reason other than to get some sort of tax write-off. Make giving a part of your life now. Make giving to people and giving advice, make people important by giving your money. Make people important by giving your talent to people who will take it and use it, not to people who just beg for it.
Wow. Wow. Now, for the entrepreneurs and business owners that, they're generating a lot in revenue, and I have, investors in my network where they love buying businesses. And I know it's good to build a business that you can sell. If you were in the market of buying a profitable business, would you buy a business for strictly EBITDA and cash flow, or would you buy a business for strictly their top line revenue and just focus on increasing their book of business?
Yeah, it's kind of hard for me to answer that because it's really not my space. I've always loved to create things and build businesses, start businesses. As a hypothetical, value and mission to me has always mattered more. So I'm not sure I'm qualified to really answer that question, because for me, I see opportunity, or I get an idea and I want to create something out of it. I want to create my own. I want to create I'm getting into this college mental health space at the moment. And there are other companies out there, major insurance companies, that are trying to do telehealth. That is, using psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists to work with college students on campus, using your phone, using your computer, doing therapy online, face-to-face, just like we're doing it. But what I'm trying to do is to create a platform that is different from the classic psychological model and the classic therapy model. So, I can think about trying to find someone to partner with, or maybe find investors to go buy, maybe a small insurance company, or a company working with locally called TheraLink, which is a platform for doing that. But I want to create my own brand, because I look at the market and I say most young people age 18 to 22, 23 don't want to do half an hour or an hour face-to-face like this. So if we can create a model where we're doing therapy for 15 minutes at a time, twice a week with a college student, and then text with them in between, we can construct that hour in a very different way, and in a way that fits the DNA of this age group. So for me, it's trying to find new ways of doing things, rather than, again, looking for businesses to buy. I want to create my own model and my own stuff in my own image, because I think I've always been innovative. I've always thought of other ways, or different ways, or new ways of trying to do things. So forgive me for not answering the question. It's just, it doesn't hold a lot of interest for me to do that specifically.
Now, when you were growing up as a kid, were you an introvert or extrovert in regards to exploring new things?
Again, introversion, extroversion is a really interesting thing. I was pretty much an extrovert. I was always a leader of sports teams. But if you want to see me as an introvert, put me in a math class. You wouldn't hear from me. Put me in a physics class or a science class. I would be at the back of the classroom, hiding under the desk. I went to a Jesuit school. So they would actually beat you, cane you with a big cane. Bend you over your pants. You scowl on your face. I know, it sounds terrible. It sounds like the Inquisition.
Wait a minute. Pause.
Yeah.
Now, you said that they would actually beat you?
Yeah, they would cane you, a long bamboo cane.
Wow.
If you did something that was really wrong, defiant, you broke the rules. It was in a kind of a British colony growing up. It was a big castle. All the teachers wore robes. It looked like Harry Potter. I mean, it was very much like that. You had to speak Latin a lot of the time, so you're talking in Latin and French and everything else. It was a wonderful school. They have created, more Rhodes Scholars, which is probably the top scholarship everyone ever wants to win. They put out more Rhodes Scholars than any school in the world. But what was really, introversion, extroversion to me goes right back to knowing talent. I am always extroverted in a place where I can demonstrate talent. I was on a board in Seattle called Youth for Christ, and I've always worked with kids. I loved working with kids, created drug court programs and the Legacy Forum. But I was like, I had nothing to say on that board. They got me on there because of my expertise, but I never said anything because all they ever dealt with was the accounting and raising money. All I saw was mission. How do we reach more kids? And so most of the people thought I was, I was either, lost my tongue, but I was a total introvert in it because that doesn't matter to me. And what matters to me and the things where I am really good and I can demonstrate them, I'm extrovert all the time. Does that make sense?
Oh, that makes a lot of sense.
Extroversion follows talent.
Should entrepreneurs and business owners really get in the habit of discovering themselves in regards to, learn about different types of knowledges? Like, for example, a panhandler knows how to survive on the streets versus a person that never been on the streets. They don't know how to survive on the streets. So that's a different type of knowledge in regards to survival mechanisms. How do you feel about entrepreneurs and business owners really learning different types of knowledges so they can discover themselves, where they can be the next Mark Cuban or the next Bill Gates?
What I think is most important is that you know yourself. Don't attempt to become somebody else. Don't attempt to talk like anybody else. Don't attempt to be someone else. People who do that are people who don't know who they are, or they're uncertain as to who they are. We may want to become Bill Gates or Mark Cuban or someone like that, but ultimately and honestly, you've got to know and be yourself. There are some people I know who will retire on $500,000 or less, who are happy people. They love the lives that they have. I know other people who've got 100 million in the bank about to retire who hate their wives and hate their kids and hate the world and anxious about everything because they've only defined themselves externally. So know again where you excel socially. Know where you again excel intellectually. Know those things about you because those are the things that will sustain you. We're not all on a trajectory where we're going to be on some board or we're going to be leading some amazing corporation. Some of us will. Some of us will work with people who do. We don't all have to be in, if we were all just that one thing, there wouldn't be anybody else left to be the COO and the CFO and, go out in the field and do sales for us. There are some people who are just great salespeople. They don't want to run a company. Just like me, I hate running things long term. I'll conceptualize it, get an idea, innovate, build, and then let other people really build it out and build everything else, long term. So know where you fit. Things like the Strength Finder will really help you do that. Just know where you fit. Don't put more pressure on yourself. I think it's always good to have goals. It's always good to say, how do I become more? But more of what? You've got to be more of what you innately already are. If you want to be a great technologist, be that. If you want to be a great doctor, I have people who I know who are doctors who hate every day of it. I know people in technology, having so many friends at Microsoft who hate every day of it. Who are leaving, who are going and starting restaurants, who are going and becoming teachers. But they were told, you've got to be an engineer. And they did it because their parents said so. So find your own place in this world. And when you find that own place, become the very best and give and give and give to more and more and more people. Find ways to do that.
Wow. Now, how do you feel about wisdom? Now, I know that, all entrepreneurs and life coaches and business coaches are not created equal. And I say when it comes to, building wealth, you need to learn from people who've been there, done that, who's still relevant in their industries. How do you feel about people grasping wisdom and taking action on their wisdom, because action beats ambition?
Mhm. Something I've done for the last 40 years of my life is I read wisdom every day. I read from a book in the Bible called Proverbs. I actually listen to it on my computer every day. I just click on it and I go to it. And if it's the 2nd of August, I listen to Proverbs chapter 2. Because Proverbs was written by supposedly the wisest man who ever lived, King Solomon. And a man who was a billionaire, a man who had 1,000 wives. Yeah, I know how many mother-in-laws that means as well, but he was a great builder of buildings. He was a builder of a country. And but he said, learn wisdom while you're young. That is, learn wisdom from people that are wise, not just pushing you in some direction, but people who know how to manage life. So if you want to get wisdom in terms of finding, in terms of your marriage, you go to somebody who's not just a therapist. I'm not a big thing on simply going to people who are professional. I want to find somebody who's been successful in doing what I want to do. Not to become like them, but to learn how they did it and learn how I can apply who I am to that. So if you want to become, wise in whatever part of life, I think you find people who've done it well and who've done it well for a long time. And sometimes you find it in quiet conversations. Sometimes you find it in reading books. Sometimes you find it, in going to church or going and listening to people like yourself and other people, who have podcasts and shows. I think you're taking in knowledge, but wisdom is not simply knowledge. It's the ability to apply it to a situation that matters. That's what wisdom is. And, it's only recently in my own life, sometimes I actually will speak in my church and it's always about talent. People have remarked and said, there's a real wisdom. It's becoming a common theme in my life, that wisdom, and I'm getting almost 60 now. It's taken a long time for people to, or for me maybe, to get wise, to be able to look at a situation, give my opinion, and other people say that really does make sense. So that's what wisdom is. It's applied knowledge to a particular situation. Generally, not always, there are young, wise people too, but generally from people who are older, who've done it much longer than I have.
Do you have any last pearls of wisdom for the audience?
I only really ultimately have one pearl of wisdom that I will, again, tell everybody. Know what you've got to give to this world. Whatever you discover and whatever you earn or make, know how to give it and who to give it to. If you have money, don't just give it for the sake of giving it. Don't give it simply because somebody asks for it. Give it to people who are going to use it to build more lives. Always give it to people who are already giving. Always invest your time, your talent, your money with people who are already using their talent, using their time well, using their money well. But ultimately, the foundation or the basis of all of life is you've been given talent. You've been given ability. Give it to other people and find the very best way to develop what you've been given so you can impact lives in a greater way. So everything's about how do I give? And you can't give if you don't know what you've got to give. So what you've been given, give. That's the basic message of everything I do.
Now, before we sign off, you wrote that phenomenal book called The DNA Code. Now, would you say that your book is your business card?
It describes what I do, and it tells people how to discover talent. So again, everything I do is just about what I've said. you've got to know who you are. And it is a model for discovery. It gives a lot of personal stories about how people that I've worked with, people that I know, had discovered and used their talent. So it is, I mean, describes what we do. I've had a lot of people through the years who've read it, who've hired us, because they get the philosophy and they understand what I'm doing. So it is a business card, yeah. Sorry for being so long-winded.
Oh, no. I love the knowledge that you share with me and the audience. And I'd like to thank you once again for taking time out of your busy schedule to educate me and the audience worldwide about your phenomenal book, The DNA Code, and about your phenomenal brand, Talent DNA. I gladly appreciate it, Mark. You are a gift from God.
Thank you, Arthur. I so appreciate you too. And thank you for what you give to people. You've created a medium, you've created a channel to be able to give to the lives and invest into the lives of other people. So thank you for what you do, and I really appreciate the time getting to meet you and be able to share what I do with other people as well. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mark, and I appreciate you. And I got to get you coming back on my program so we can get more in depth about these wealth building principles and talent DNA.
Thank you. You have a wonderful day.
To everyone that's listening, I highly recommend getting involved with the phenomenal Mark DeMoss. You hear the passion that came through his voice on my show today. He broke down layman's terms about you have to discover who you are. He also broke down layman's terms about wealthy families and what they go through, and discover your own talent DNA. And once you discover that, you got to take your passion and turn your passion into phenomenal profits. So once again, my name is Arthur Robinson Jr. I'm the creator and host of the Powerful Interviews podcast, along with the phenomenal, successful entrepreneur, Mark DeMoss. And go to his website. He has incredible content that could take your mindset and your business to a whole nother level. But remember, you have to implement what you learn. So to everyone that's listening and watching right now, remember that the strongest asset each and every one of you have is your brain, and what you think about and what you take action on, that will become your reality, and your mentality creates your reality. May God bless each and every one of you, and bye for now. Thank you, Mark.
Thanks. Bye-bye now.
Have a pleasant day, everyone.